Hi there, guys. Welcome to today's battle report. It is another 4,500. It is another Demon Legions against Dwarven Holds. I do promise there will be others at some point, but it just seems to be Silas and I really getting the games in at the moment. There is a possibility that Silas is going to get his Highborn Elves out for our next game, and I've even threatened to pull out my old Saurian Ancient army if need be, but I don't really enjoy playing it, so if it does come out, I don't think it'll stay out for long. Anyway, 4,500 points. Quick look at the army lists there. Silas has made a few changes. He's dropped one unit of Hold Guardians, and he's dropped his Organ Guns, and he's brought in a big unit of Kingsguard and a couple of catapults. Kingsguard seemed quite a nice unit. Just a couple more attacks, really, than the Greybeards. Catapults, as an alternative to the Organ Guns, catapults don't suffer all of the penalties that Organ Guns do. I think they ignore intervening terrain or something like that. So Silas was trying those out today to see how they went. On my side, I've dropped my Greater Demon. Although my Courtesan have lost... had a good day in the last game. I can't get past the fact that, you're talking 1,100 points really in one model, which is just it's too much. So I looked at my army list and I thought, you know what, I really want a big block like Silas has got, something that's just horrible to go up against. And I wasn't in any way tailoring my list to take on Silas's, but I did want to experiment with a version of that kind of Death Star unit that I could put together. And so what I came up with was the 30 Tallymen. Now the Tallymen have got contamination, so they poison on a 5+. And they're in horde formation. My Harbinger on a palanquin takes up the space of 4 guys, so I've kind of got my 3 ranks of 10, and then I've got a fodder of 4. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to get those 3 ranks into combat before the unit gets too heavily damaged. In that unit, I've also got the token of pestilence, which means that I can be re-rolling to hit. So I'm hitting on 4s, poisoning on 5s, and I've got re-rolls. So re-rollable 5+ poison's pretty horrible. And my Harbinger of Pestilence has got the Rending Banner, so that's re-rollable 5+ poison with strength 4 and armor piercing. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that's going to go. Not many changes beside that. I've dropped in another unit of Furies with the points that I've gained from dropping the Courtesan I've lost, and I've put both Furies on the Mark of Wrath, just so they can go into combat at strength 5 in the first turn. I'm wondering whether that's going to help me with War Machines. It's a little thing, but I figured that the Harbinger of Pestilence probably wasn't going to be anywhere near them, so they weren't going to benefit from the leadership bubble in the same way they do from a Greater Demon. So I thought, you know what, let's have a go and see what happens. On that note, let's have a look and see what happened. Okay, so here we are in deployment then. Silas has again, for the 3rd time in a row, rolled to get the right to deploy first, and he has again, for the 3rd time in a row, dropped his whole army. I'm not sure of the wisdom of this, if I'm honest, because it does allow me to pick my matchups, and you can see, you can already see what I'm going for here, really. You've got all this heavy shooting with the Flamers and the 2 Blazing Chariots already in position to deal with the Hold Guardians. I fully expect to be able to do the same to them today as I've been able to do for the last 2 or 3 games. So that's kind of quite nice. Then I've put my my big horde of Tallymen over here with the beasts, and what I'm looking to do here is basically stomp along the battlefield this way and come around the side with the beasts and take out this unit, while holding this unit off by feeding it horrors and furies. And then I'm hoping that the fiends will be able to head across the centre of the board here and they should make fairly short work of these greybeard units. So yeah, that's kind of it really. Horrors on the side here. I'm hoping just to sort of bounce off the side of the board and head towards the catapults. So that's deployment. We're on the diagonal. The secondary objective is to hold the middle ground, which is this point on this water feature right here. One thing to note is that this Kingsguard unit does have the Strider rule, so it's able to go straight through the water feature like it's not there. So that's the end of deployment. Silas got the first turn because he deployed his whole army first, so let's see how that went. Okay, so Silas's movement phase here then. Not a great amount happening really. He seems largely to be content for me to come to him. Really the only movement that he's made is to get these Hold Guardians to swing across the flank here, just to sort of head off towards the centre of the board. Of course, it's a scoring unit, so heading towards this corner is going to be valuable for it if it can get there. So yeah, that's Silas's movement 1. Okay, so end of Silas's turn 1 here then, and as you would predict in an army with no magic, not a huge amount going on in the first turn. One of his catapults over here has taken out a couple of tallymen on this big block, and that was it. So end of Silas's turn 1. Okay, so my movement phase then, and you can see that I've been able to get my igniters out of the field of vision of the Hold Guardians here, as the unit has swung around so much. So that's quite a convenient position to be in really, because there's no threat to this unit now. Likewise, there's no threat to the Furies besides the catapults, and if Silas wants to waste catapult shots on Furies, I'm absolutely fine with that. So I do wonder whether this army is missing some missile troops. On the other side of the board, the big horde is heading towards this unit here. I'm having to bear right a little bit because I don't want to be flank charged by this great big unit here. And this is forcing my beast over onto quite a long charge, really, later on. So we'll see how that goes. In the middle, cautious advance with the horrors here. They are a scoring unit, but they're certainly not wanting to take this big block on. So I've got my Harbinger here is able to take pop shots at, the catapults or the Hold Guardians or whatever, and the Fiends are ready to make a dash here, but not getting too close yet because I don't want to be charged by this unit. So I'm going to wait to see what they do. I'm hoping they're going to ignore the Fiends and just kind of move forwards and try and secure the secondary objective and batten down the hatches, because that's going to allow my Fiends to head off up into this corner here. But we'll have to wait and see whether that happens or not. Okay, so end of my turn here then. I got a 4 and a 1 in the magic phase, and I managed to channel. I got Ancestral Aid off on this big unit here, just in case they got charged by the dwarf unit. I wondered whether Silas might, try it on. And obviously that would mean that he could hit me before the beasts could get in. So I thought, I'll just pop a couple of dice into that. That left me with 4 dice to cast Unerring Strike, which failed to cast on 4 dice, which was depressing. The Flamers over here did 2 wounds to the Hold Guardians, so not a whole lot going on there. And both chariots missed their shots. I'm not sure, I didn't write it down here, but I either went after the Hold Guardians or the catapults. Probably the Hold Guardians, actually, because the catapults don't really pose a significant threat, as I don't have any greater demons on the board. But either way, both chariots missed. So that was the end of my turn 1. Okay, so Silas is 2 here then. And you can see that the Hold Guardians are continuing to head towards the centre here. And the Kingsguard are using their Strider rule to march through the water feature to threaten the flank of this unit here. This unit has decided to stay still, so we seem to be in a bit of a manoeuvring exercise over on this side of the board here. And I think what Silas has done here with the Greybeards is reform them so that they're actually looking towards the war machines here. I'm obviously not going to charge a unit of Greybeards with a unit of Furies even in the rear, because I'll just get demolished. So what Silas is clearly thinking there is that I can charge the catapult, and then if it survives or if I overrun into the next one, then he can come to the rescue with the Greybeards. So that's Silas's movement turn 2. Okay, so we missed a photograph, as always seems to happen somehow. So let me just talk you through what happened in Silas's turn 2. It was a very underpowered magic phase with a 2 and a 1. He does have some bound spells in this unit here, I think with the Runic Master, and he cast some sort of Gleaming Rune on this whole Guardian unit, which gave them distracting. So obviously he's thinking to limit the effectiveness of my shooting there. And the catapults here between them killed 2 flamers. So that was Silas's turn 2. And then in my own turn 2, just the one charge, the beast, sorry, not the beasts, the Furies over here have made a charge into the catapult here. So I've got strength 4 with the Mark of Wrath, so I'm strength 5 when I go in. So I'm hoping I can take out maybe 3 of these dwarves. And then obviously the dwarves will charge me in the rear next turn, but I'm wondering, will I be able to take out the last one after that? It's a bit of a gamble, really, but what else am I going to do with those Furies? So what else has happened? I've obviously positioned my Flamers and my Blazing Chariot here to be shooting down the flank and generally getting bothersome here. I've run the Fiends through the middle now that the big block here isn't interested in them, heading towards this unit of Greybeards here. And so what I'm thinking is to cut through these Greybeards and on into the catapult here. Over here, the Horde is headed up towards this big block, and the beasts are getting squeezed again because I'm having to be wary of this big block here. But I have dropped my horrors in the way of it here, and then I've got the Furies in the way of it here. So it's going to stop right here, and then I've got my horrors ready to feed to it after that. So that's the end of my movement 2. Okay, so end of my turn 2 then, and I cast Portent of Doom on this big unit here. Obviously it's got 1 die for the unit, and then there are 3 characters in it, so I get to roll 4 dice, and if any of them are 6, then it can't shoot, it can't cast spells, it can't declare charges. So it's an attempt to slow down this great big Death Star unit here. Silas used his Dispelling Rune to get rid of that, so that was fine. Blazing Chariot caused 3 wounds on the Hold Guardians. The Igniters caused 2 wounds on the Hold Guardians, so less damage than normal, and that distracting spell does seem to be paying off. Up here in the corner, I did a couple of wounds to the catapult, but the crew passed their leadership test, and the Furies sort of underperformed, really. They hit twice, and then they were wounding on, I think, 2s, and I think I got 1 wound through. So charging a wound, and they did the wound back and passed their leadership test. So a bit of an underperformance there, so bad news for the Furies up in the corner. I'm feeling at this point that I'm misusing my beasts, because what this is going to mean is that this unit here can crush my Furies, and then while this unit of Fiends is dealing with these Greybeards, these other Greybeards are going to be able to move into the way. So I'm having to sort of go through various speed bumps to reach these catapults, while my beasts are over here on the other side, largely being useless. So a little bit frustrated by that, but that's the way it goes. Okay, so Silas's movement phase here, and you can see that the Greybeards have come up here to deal with these Furies, and that kind of causes me a problem, really. I've realised at this point that I'm misplaying my beasts, because now what this means is that these fiends are going to have to cut through 2 units of greybeards, which is going to take them a long time, and they're going to take damage along the way because these guys are strength 6. And that's going to delay getting to these catapults. Meanwhile, the beasts are kind of getting squeezed off the side of the board here, well, up to the board edge anyway. So, yeah. In the rest of Silas's movement phase, he declared a charge against these Furies here, but failed the charge. It was a fairly long charge. I think he needed like an 8 or a 9 to make it, but it was a good move. It was well spotted, and it could have been disastrous for me really, because had Silas have gone across the middle of the board, hit the Furies, smashed through them, he'd have potentially overran into the big Death Star unit here, which would have seen it going 2 against 1. And there are questions, over how well it would have held in such circumstances. But anyway, a failed charge in the middle there, so not to worry too much there. Okay, so end of Silas's turn here. And you can see that he's obviously smashed through the Furies in the middle, which was to be expected, and reformed, ready to threaten this flank here. The catapults didn't do any wounds to the Telemen, which was obviously good from my point of view, and he's cast Gleaming again on this unit of Hold Guardians. So again, he's protecting them from shooting with a little distracting. So that's the end of Silas's turn 3. Okay, so my turn 3 then, and you can see here that the Horde unit has charged this big Greybeard unit. The Beasts have failed a charge. The unit has got some sort of rune on it, which means that they take d6 inches off their charge range. So the Beasts haven't made it in, and then of course, because they haven't made it in after the Tallymen have then moved in, because I rolled the Beasts first. After the Tallymen have moved in, this now means that this gap here is too small for the Beasts in their current formation to get through, so that's quite frustrating. The Horrors have moved up here, going full stretch, just about making it on their march there, just to get in the way of this unit here, so the big block is going to have to take out the Horrors first, and I'm hoping that by then I will have smashed through this unit. The Fiends have charged this unit here, and you can see here the Greybeards are sort of preparing for them later on, so that'll be that. The Igniters, I've put the smaller unit of Igniters in the way of the Hold Guardians here, so again slowing down both of these blocks while I deal with this one, and then I'm just harassing with the Chariots and the remaining Igniters there. So that's the end of my movement phase. Okay, so end of my turn 3 here. I got a 6 and a 1 in the magic phase, and I cast my Bound Ancestral Aid, which gave me re-rollable poison, and this unit was absolutely horrific. It won combat by something ridiculous, like 13 points. So that was particularly nasty. I cast Portent of Doom again on this unit, trying to prevent it from charging, which Silas dispelled, which was completely the right decision. In the middle here, 3 wounds on the Hold Guardians from the Harbinger's bolt, 3 wounds on the Hold Guardians from the combined Igniter shooting, and the Blazing Chariot here missed its shot on the side. 1 wound on the Greybeards from the Horrors shooting in the middle here, and the big block obviously ripped through that unit there. We got into combat here, and the dwarves were beaten, but they were steadfast, so that was a little frustrating, and of course they didn't run. So that's the end of my turn 3. Okay, so Silas's turn 4 then. You can see that this block here has charged the Horrors, and it fully expects to smash straight through them, which is absolutely fine. In the middle here, the Hold Guardians have charged the Igniters, and and then these greybeards are sort of moving down the side here to prepare to attack the flank of the fiends here. I wasn't sure about this because it occurred to me that I could quite easily finish off this unit in Silas's turn, which would mean that I'd be able to make a charge at the catapults without the greybeards being in the way. If I'd have been playing the greybeards, I'd have brought them into this path. Might happen, might not. We'll just have to wait and see. So that's that's the end of Silas's movement 4. Okay, so end of the turn here then, and Silas got a 2 and a 2 on the magic phase, and I channeled, but he still somehow managed to get gleaming off with his 2 dice against my 3. Sorry, no, actually with 4 dice against 3, so that's fine. Making this unit harder to hit, but they ripped through the igniters in combat anyway. 1 catapult killed an igniter, and 1 catapult took 4 models off of the Tallymen horde. Now this is making this horde, it's really sort of thinning out now. It's a bit of a shame, really, that you can only get 30 guys in these hordes. I kind of see why it happens, because, otherwise, obviously, people would run 40 and they'd be, really beefy. But the Kingsguard, they can get 45 models in a horde. Okay, they're not core troops, but this horde just thins out really quickly. The only thing I can do to limit that is to put the BSB on a palanquin as well. That would cause him to displace 4 guys instead of 1, so I could add another 3 to the back here, but that's kind of as far as it goes, really. The Fiends won combat by a considerable margin, but the Dwarves held, which was annoying. And the big block here destroyed the Horrors, which was to be expected. Okay, so in my movement phase here, and 2 things I should probably point out actually from the end of the last turn. One was that the Fiends did a combat reform here, which we missed out in the photo. And then the other is that actually this big dwarf unit here is facing towards the secondary objective. I think Silas has basically realised that he needs to get over here and secure this. Because I think he's realised that his Hold Guardians are not going to be standing by the end of the game, so he seems to be making movements towards it. Of course, my Tallymen at the time were facing towards him up here, so what I've done anyway is swift reform here and then a move just to stay on the heels of this unit and to bring the beasts in here. And I'm thinking that in the next turn of combat, well, Silas has either got to reform and face me, or he's got to make a move towards the secondary objective and get flank and rear charged potentially. Although this unit is really beefy, so we'll just have to see how that goes. Okay, so end of my turn 4 here, and it was a great magic phase. Finally, 4 turns in, we rolled a double 5, and I channeled, so I had 11 dice to Silas's 5. I got Ancestral Aid off on the Fiends to make sure that they finished off those dwarves, which obviously you can see from the photograph they did, and then they reformed. Silas dispelled the Unerring Strike against the Hold Guardians, but I got the stars align on the Harbinger of Change here, because she's carrying the stars align spell. Actually, no, sorry. The general here is casting the stars align spell, and this is an 18-inch gap here, so managed to get it off on her or him. We're not sure what the gender of a Harbinger of Change is, actually. I think this Blazing Chariot was just out of range for it, so I couldn't do that. And I got Fate's Judgment on the Hold Guardians, which did a wound. Then I got no wounds from the Igniters, but a total of 9 wounds from the penetrating attack of the Blazing Chariot, and the shot across the front here from the Harbinger of Change. So put a huge, great big dent in this unit there. And the Fiends over here, you can see finished off the Greybeards and reformed, ready to receive these other unit of Greybeards here. So that was the end of my turn 4. Okay, so Silas's movement 5 then, and you can see what he's decided to go for is that full speed march. He can march 9 inches with this unit, so he's placed himself squarely on top of the secondary objective, and he's got some kind of runic item or stone or something that means that I don't get flank and rear bonuses when I charge him anyway. So that's the path he's chosen, if you like. And over up in the top left here, you can see that the Greybeards have moved into position to prevent the fiends from wheeling past them and charging the catapults. So that's Silas's movement turn 5. The whole Guardian's obviously moved up here, but he's as good as dead between the igniters and the 2 chariots. So there you go. Okay, so apologies for the state of this photograph. I was getting pretty tired by this point in the game. So what's happened then? Well, we both channeled. Silas rolled a 5 and a 1 for the magic phase, so he had 7 dice to my 6. He got a bad roll on the Rune of Reckoning, which gives re-rollable hits, and we used 3 dice for that, and I managed to dispel it with 2. And then he cast Gleaming, which I managed to, with 4 dice, which I managed to dispel with 4 dice. And the catapults both missed their targets. So it was a pretty dismal turn 5 for Silas, actually, that one. Quick alternative viewpoint of the battlefield here. You can see this is the centre with the water feature in it, and you've got the chariots, igniters, beasts, and telemen sort of ambushing this great big unit of dwarves here. Okay, so this is my turn then, and I think, let me just check here. Yeah, I think we missed a movement phase photograph, but I didn't do very much movement. Wasn't particularly keen to engage this unit because you only have to be within 6 inches of the secondary objective to get it. So what I'm thinking to do here is to simply move both units in. I don't think that, well, Silas can't charge me because he's still facing this way, so he's going to spend a turn reforming, ready to receive my charge, and then I'll just be able to walk up to him and wave at him without actually getting into combat, and I'll have 2 scoring units within 6 inches, and Silas will have the 1, so I'll get the secondary objectives. So over here in combat then, Fiend died, but several dwarves died, and I expect to be able to finish them off next time. What happened in the magic phase? Couple of dispels, both on the Fiends. I got cast Ancestral Aid and Stars Align, but both were stopped. I got Fate's Judgment on the Hold Guardians, but he saved all the wounds on that with his armor save, and then the Harbinger of Change killed off the last Hold Guardian. A wound on the Greybeards, nothing of any consequence, but I think the main thing was the passing of the leadership test on a Steadfast up here. Just there. Okay, so Silas's movement turn 6 here then, and you can see that in the middle he has reformed, ready to receive the double charge here. Got himself into Horde formation, so he's going to get 3 ranks of strength 6, I think they'll be, with a 5+ ward save on top of his armor save, with all of his nasty characters in there as well. My Horde, meanwhile, has had quite a sizable dent put into it, so I'm certainly not going to be engaging this unit unnecessarily. So yeah, that was Silas's movement turn 6. Okay, so end of Silas's turn 6 here. He got a 5 and a 1 on the magic phase, so he had 7 dice to my 6 because we both channeled. He failed to cast the hard target on 2d6, the Gleaming, which was ridiculous, and that meant that I was able to dispel his Rune of Reckoning with all of my dispel dice, so nothing happened in the magic phase. In the the shooting phase rather, one catapult misfired and did a wound to itself, and then the other one missed twice. So that was they're a bit hit and miss, aren't they, those catapults? So yeah, that was the end of Silas's turn 6. Okay, so this is my movement 6 then. I've charged the catapult here with the fiends, but I'm not going to get to this second catapult, which is frustrating. And under much taunting and chicken-like noises, I've advanced up to but not engaged with this great big block here. I'm going to shoot at it, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do any consequential damage to it at all, really. But I do have both units here, 2 scoring units within 6 inches of the secondary objective. I'm really frustrated in this game with the way that I played the beasts. My beasts, they've scored the secondary objective. They've tipped the outcome of that in my favour by being a scoring unit. But other than that, they did nothing the whole game, and that's because I played them out on the flank over here and ended up getting squeezed out of the game, which I'm frustrated by, because they could have quite easily taken out this catapult and oh, battery's dying, and dealt with some greybeards as well. But I suppose, you know, they've scored the secondary objective, so I should be grateful for that, I suppose. Okay, so end of my turn 6 here then. I killed a couple of dwarves with magic and shooting, which amounted to absolutely nothing. And up in the top left there, you can see that the fiends took out the catapult. So it was 14-6 on points scored, and then with the secondary objectives, it was a 17-3 in my favour. I'm very happy with this army list that I've written. I think it's even more competitive than the last one. That Ancestral Aid bound item with 5+ rerollable poison with strength 4, armor piercing 2 and a horde is just insane. Really nice combination, and the fact that I've got 4 spells off divination means that the range of the spells is working for me, and I'm very likely to get stars aligned. So I'm likely to get 2 goes at rerollable poison in the magic phase, which is brutal, really. I don't really feel that Silas played particularly badly on the whole. You know, I mean, his use of the dwarf, the big block was fine. He made the threats. He dealt with the things that got in the way. I think, if anything, I'd probably say 2 things. Number one, I don't think the way that he's deploying works. This is the 3rd time in a row that he's dropped his whole army, and that's just allowing me to choose my matchups, really. And every game, I've just put the whole Guardians up against the chariots and the igniters and just cut them apart over a few turns. That's not going to change. The distracting hard target spell helped, but only for a while. And then, I'm always going to be able to palm off that big unit with furies and horrors and chaff. And that's going to allow me to send my block up against the medium-sized stuff, smash through it, and then just double back and gang up, like you can see on the board now. It's a pretty kind of foregone conclusion in a way, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful sense, but there's a kind of inevitability about it when I can choose the matchups, really. I wonder about Silas's army build. Obviously, he doesn't have any missile troops, besides the catapults, so he's not really threatening my fiends. He's not threatening my furies, and he doesn't have any chaff hunters. So, there was nothing to stop my horrors getting in the way of that block. There was nothing to stop my fiends getting in the way of that block. And so I think Silas played well with what he had on the board, but I think what he had on the board, while each unit that was on the board is potentially brutal, I don't think he has the necessary toolkit in his army list to deal with all of the different things that were going on. So, Silas, if you're listening, that's probably where I think you might consider making a few changes. So yeah, anyway, that's it for today. That brings me up to date. Actually, no more outstanding battle reports. So that's nice. Got a game, I think, next week against either Jake or Silas. I'm hoping we might get Steve, Mike, and Inga in some of our upcoming games that I will introduce you guys to. The Ninth Age community here in Suzhou is growing. Actually, I think we're up to 6 or 7 players, and then there's a couple of guys from Shanghai that might be making their way down from time to time as well. So that's working out quite nicely. Right, anyway, that's it for today, guys. Thanks for watching, and I will hope to see you next time.